Do you like rules? I don't think any of us really like rules, but they're important for us to know how to treat others and to live. And the Bible tells us about 10 commands that the Lord gave to Moses. And the first one is very easy. You can point up, and it's to remind us to love the Lord our God and have no other gods before him. Rule number 2 is easy. You can take 2 fingers, and it's to remind you to not bow down to any god besides the one who created you and made you, and to love him with all your heart. So you can take your pointer finger and keep it up. Take the tall finger and bend it down to remind you not to bow down to anyone but the one true God. Number 3 is one that I've seen broken quite a bit, and it's an easy one for us to remember. Hold up 3 fingers and put it over your lips like this, and it's to remind you, do not take the Lord's name in vain. So do not speak the Lord's name in vain. Commandment number 4 is a special one. It's to remind you to take a break and rest and worship the Lord. So you can take number 4 and you take your thumb, that's your working finger. It works a lot throughout the week. Well, let it take a rest and remind you to take a rest too. And take time to worship the Lord, and if you can, go to church and be with others that love the Lord too. Number 5 is an important commandment. You can take the number 5 and put it over your head like this, and that's to remind you that you're under your parents' authority. Number 5 tells you to honor your mother and your father. Number 6 is an important commandment. First, you take the 1, and that's to remind you that you are important to God, and not only you, but other people too. All people are made in the image of God, but sometimes we want to harm what God has created. And God says, do not murder. And murder always starts with hating. So hating is just as bad as murder. Commandment number 7. That's a very special commandment for moms and dads. Is to remind them to be faithful in marriage. You can take your hand like this to remind you of God. Did you know that God created marriage? And so our hand is to remind us that marriage is created by God. And then take our 2 fingers to remind us of moms and dads. And commandment number 7 reminds moms and dads to be faithful in marriage. I'm so glad I learned commandment number 8 when I was a child. Commandment number 8 says, do not steal. And once I was tempted to steal something. Well, probably more than once, but I remember this time. Because I remembered the commandment, I put the thing down, and much to my surprise, I got the very thing for my birthday. Commandment number 9. Say the teacher tells you that you can have 4 pieces of candy, but a student says, oh, he took 5 pieces of candy. Well, that's what the Bible calls bearing false witness against your neighbor. So commandment number 9 says, do not lie about your neighbor. Commandment number 10 says, do not covet or want what your neighbor has. If you're thankful for what you have, you will not covet what your neighbor has. And that way you'll keep commandment number 10. In Mark chapter 12, verses 29 through 31, Jesus teaches a simple way to remember all 10 commandments. He calls it the 2 greatest commandments. And the first commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. That's the first commandment. And when you keep that, you're remembering commandments 1 through 4, which teaches us about loving God. And then the second commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. When you keep the second commandment, that helps you remember commandments number 5 through 10, which teaches us about loving our neighbor as ourselves.